Hello everyone, we're going to look at how you can build an MCP server from an OpenAPI spec. I know it's slightly confusing with OpenAI as well, but this is OpenAPI. OpenAPI is a standard or specification for building APIs. Many existing APIs will already conform to this. So that's the beauty of it. You can take an existing API and then you can create a MCP server from it. We're going to use FastMCP. What is FastMCP? It's a Pythonic way to build MCP servers and clients for Python. You can read all about it here. Go fastmcp.com. You got a quick start. You create an instance of FastMCP. You add tools, so on. So the API that we're going to use is a real API. It's the Petstore one, Petstore 3. Make sure you use Petstore 3 because it needs to be OAS 3.0. You can test all these yourself and you can add and delete data. It's a live sandbox environment, really. So this is my code, and we'll look at it in detail from now on. And we may or may not type it in. Let's see how we go. So let's just make this full screen. So yeah, this will save you hours because I had to kind of work this out for myself, because on the GitHub repo, it shows a link saying it's possible, but it doesn't really go in detail on how you actually do it. So we're using FastMCP. We're using Petstore as the existing API that we want to create our MCP server from. Introduction, here we go. So if you already know, you come to this page and you can jump straight to the code. But MCP servers, you've got resources, tools, and prompts. Tools are primarily what we're going to be interested in here. So why choose FastMCP? Well, it's great because the whole reason to do this is because FastMCP allows you to make a very quick MCP server. The prerequisites, Python 3.12, FastMCP, requests, HTTPX, and UV-corn. You can use UV as well. I'll be using UV in a second, so pip-pull UV. There's the flow diagram with the mandatory person with a mouth pointing. Really what this is just showing is you've got a FastMCP server that's built by reading the JSON from the OpenAPI. We create the FastMCP instance, and then we generate the FastMCP server from OpenAPI. That's even the name of the function, from OpenAPI. We're going to get to the code in a second, so yeah, here we go. This is the start of it. So what we do is we read this URL, petstore3.swagger.io/API v3 OpenAPI JSON. So if we go to that URL, you'd actually just see a whole bunch of JSON. But what we do is we parse it. If we get an error, then we print the error, otherwise, or log the error. Otherwise, what we do is we save it to a file. Once we've got it as a file, we create MCP. So FastMCP, and we pass in the title, the description, and the version. These are all required. Then with our MCP object, we then use the HTTP client to call this. So we got the FastMCP_API equals FastMCP.fromOpenAPI, and that's where we pass in the spec, so the OpenAPI spec is what we've created higher up when we've loaded the JSON. So yeah, then we've got the app. So we're using SSE. Obviously, that's been replaced by streamable HTTP. But for the time being, we'll go with what's available. These SDKs evolve so rapidly that within a couple of weeks, they'll be the streamable. You could do std.io as well. std.io or SSE were the first two transport methods available. So yeah, just going back to this, we've got MCP equals FastMCP. So we're creating instantiating FastMCP object, and then we create from OpenAPI. We then have our FastMCP underscore API, which is what becomes our app. Our app effectively becomes our MCP server. That's how I kind of distill it down. Yeah, so we download the OpenAPI spec. We save spec locally to JSON. And then we create the FastMCP server using the FastMCP library. Scroll across there. So we're passing in, as we saw, the description, the version, title. So 3 things that you have to pass in. Then the kind of the more, not the more, but the key part here is we integrate with an HTTP client, because the FastMCP server will interact with remote APIs to expose the resources. So you've kind of got your FastMCP server and your API. So it's not recreating it, it's just kind of linking with it, interacting. And then we use UVCorn, so hopefully you're familiar with that. When we run it, I've run it in Goose. So Goose is command line LLM, which is free. And when you set up Goose, you can specify your choice of LLM provider. So let's just do the code, shall we? So you've seen the overview, and I don't know how far we are into this video, a few minutes, but 6 minutes. So if you've had the overview, you just want to get on with it, then I've already given you the idea and the inspiration. But if you want to actually see it being done from scratch, let's get on with it. So let's, what should we do? Let's change to my Python directory, make the font a bit bigger. Hopefully that's all clear. And let's do UV init, MCP underscore fast open. I'll do. I don't know about you, but naming things is often the hardest thing. So what have we got here? We got pyproject.toml. Let's do UV add requests. What else do we need to do? We need to add. What was the other one? FastMCP, HTTPX UVCorn. Okay. I'll just do clear so you can see it at the top, because sometimes it's easier to read stuff when it's at the top of your screen, isn't it? UVCorn. I think that's already there actually. And what was the other one? HTTPX. Right, okay. Let's just take that off full screen, and what I need to do is bring back up that and try and remember what we need to do. So the imports, we've got requests, JSON, async IO, so it's asynchronous, HTTPX, fast, from FastMCP import, FastMCP. UVCorn and login. You don't have to have login, but it's nice. Let's go to source. We've got a main there. MV main. MV is just my NeoVim shortcut. My way of doing it. Okay. Blah blah blah. Why is it not accessed? The main. I don't know what the error was all about. Right. So set up login. We need login basic config. level equals login info, logger equals login.getLogger, dunder name dunder. I'm just going to paste that in. Right, let's actually do some code. So async def main. And first thing we'll do is the Petstore URL. And I'm not going to remember that, so excuse me while I paste that in. Logger.info, downloading OpenAPI spec. And then this is where we do the get. So we're going to make a request to the Petstore URL. Response is not accessed, we know. Oh, the kind of the LSP's doing all those pale blue messages. I've not done Python code for a day or two, so yeah, a day or two. I'm not really doing other stuff. So if response.status code is not equal to 200, then we log an error. Otherwise, it will just carry on with what it's doing. Right. Then the OpenAPI spec is equal to the JSON that we get back. Then with that JSON, we'll open it as a file. Then we'll do JSON.dump. We'll dump the JSON to a file, and then we'll log that we've saved it. We're going to have some indentation problems there. Unexpected indent there as well. There we go. Okay. So we've downloaded the JSON using request.get. We saved it to a file. So then we issue a message to say we're creating the MCP server from the spec. And then this is where we do the good stuff. So MCP equals FastMCP. And this is where we put in the three things, which were title, description, and version. Yeah. Let's just copy and paste those. Just tidy that up. Okay, so it's just wrapping because size of my font on here. I'm trying to keep it fairly big for people viewing this on smaller screens or phones and stuff. Use HTTP client to call remote API. So this is async because it's over the network, it's network bound. We don't know how long it may or may not take. We want to free up the resources to do other stuff. So use HTTP client to call remote API. That's just a note. Hopefully, forgive me for pasting that in. So async. So this is setting up the session, and then once you've got that, then you have to do stuff inside it. So open async with HTTPX. Async client. And now I'm doing this the hard way because I'm doing it in NeoVim, but I think sometimes it's good just to not always rely on the auto completion and all the other new stuff you get now. It's a base URL equals, and then we're going to put in the not the full. So this is where we put in the actual API, which is this. Not the JSON. We're actually just passing in the actual API URL. If that makes sense. So grab that from there. API version 3. It does need to be version 3 apparently. I've not tried it version 2, but I assume it doesn't work. That's what we're doing. Right, so comma and then something else, was it? I know. And then let's close bracket. As what we call it, as we just call it as HTTP client. So we've set up that handles kind of the session stuff, and then inside that, then we want to actually then create the server. FastMCP _API. Right. So let's type it. It's cheating otherwise, isn't it? Equals FastMCP. This is the key bit actually from open. It's so difficult now to type in OpenAPI rather than OpenAI. It's like the muscle memory. OpenAPI underscore spec equals OpenAPI underscore spec. The left is our new variable. The right is what we've created. What we've created above, up on line 20, which is your response.json. And then the client is the HTTP client that we just created just now, just above, up here, which is kind of the async session management stuff. And then we want to pass the FastAPI SGI to Uvicorn. So then we're going to be passing the fast that we've just created just a second ago. We're going to be passing that with .sse dunder app. So app equals FastMCP, which is our object we just created. I've got a typo here, haven't I? So FastMCP dunder API. My bad. Okay, so app equals FastMCP dunder API dot SSE under app. And then we just do the logger.info Uvicorn stuff, and then await server.serve. I just could paste that in. You're probably getting bored of watching me type, but I think it's good sometimes just to type it in from scratch without using any sort of assistance or other tools. So config unit, this is the Uvicorn stuff. There's alternatives to Uvicorn. I can't remember what they are. I always use Uvicorn. So then we just do if name dunder name equals dunder main async io dot run. Let's not be lazy. Let's type that in then. If name async io dot run main need 2 equals. Right. What's that up there then? MCP is not accessed. That's not right. MCP equals FastMCP Let's try it. Right, clear, UV run main.py. Unexpected indent on line 18. Let's go to line 18. So why MCP is not accessed? Let's just cheat. I'm just going to go across to my code. Under here. Oh, right. And that's working. There we go. I don't know what that I don't know what that linting error was, but it's working. Right. So let's we got it running on port 8000. What I'm going to do now is from the same directory. I've got a shortcut set up to run MCP Inspector. I've done other videos on that, so I'm not going to cover it again here. MCP Inspector is basically a GUI where you can test out your inspector. And is that a bit too dark? Right, so in actual fact, it's already set to port 8000 in SSE. You might have noticed this week they've added streamable HTTP, so it's in progress. Well, the inspector handles it already, but some of the SDKs don't. So we've got list resources. There we go. We've got, let me just get you the money shot here. So these are all from Petstore. So you've got find by status, find by tags, pet ID, you've got pet, you've got store, you've got user. So if we go back here, find by status, get inventory, log in user, log out user, log out user, store, pet. So I'm not going to, I say I've already tested it, and I don't want to just start up using Goose and go off on a tangent, because you probably use Claude or something. I use Goose because I can't afford Anthropic, Claude, whatever. But yeah, when you run it, you set it up as an extension with Goose, and then I did it, and I said update pet ID with name Fred, and it did it. That's how you do it with Goose anyway. So you just add a remote extension if you're using SSE, or you use a command line extension if you're using std.io. You can see session ID. So all that's because we're using async IO and it's managing the session. Created web transport, backend server connected to SSE, all that. So this is all going on behind the scenes with the inspector. The inspector is it's just a way to validate your MCP server. And here you see, because we're still using SSE, we're posting messages, and that's our session ID 96 ends in 94. It's the same session here. Low-level service process request of list resources request. So you've got resources, and then as we covered in the other videos, you've also got tools. So the tools here, you've got delete pet, upload file, add pet. Let's do one. Bob. I don't know if this will work or not. Yeah, success. So there we go. It's updated pet with ID 1, which is Bob. I don't know if that'll. Let's do get pet. Find a pet by ID. Let's try it out. So this is actually pet ID 1. And what did we do? We just did. we just did add pet. We want to update pet. The order, create user, update pet. That's what we want. So I don't know. Let's call it Max. Pet ID is number 1 is going to be called Max now. So we've updated pet with ID 1. We execute that again. You can see it's Max. And this is live on the Petstore 3.swagger.io API. This isn't anything I've written. This is the Petstore Swagger sandbox. Good. So that actually shows you can test it and you can actually put it through its paces using the MCP Inspector. As I say, I've used Goose, but I don't want to go too deeply into using Goose here because you probably use Claude or something else, Cursor, whatever. So what we've done here is we've used FastMCP to do from OpenAPI, and from as long as the API you are using is OAS 3.0. That's one of the requirements with, let me make that brighter as well. I know I've got sunglasses on, but it's quite sunny here today for a change. Right, so I'll just quickly go through this. It's, let me just find you the bit that covers, oh, there we go, that's the bit that, so I didn't have a massive amount of help to do this really. It took me most of an afternoon to do this, but there we go. That's the, you can set a timeout, blah, 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 default route mappings. So this is the bit you want to come to. OpenAPI integration, generate MCP servers from OpenAPI specs, new in version 2. I don't know when that came out, probably quite recently. Big thank you to Jay Lowen for creating this. It's amazing. Yeah, so it's like 3 days ago and so on. It's all been updated. #1 repository of the day. So you can use the MCP as well. You don't, not for building your own MCP server with your own tools, resources, and prompts. You don't have to use an open API. There's samples in here as well. There's some cool home automation stuff as well, but that goes over my head. So yeah, hopefully this video has given you inspiration to at least attempt to do this yourself. If you've got your own, within your own company, for instance, you've got your own APIs, presumably they've been written to the Open API specification. You're consuming someone else's and they've done it properly or conform to the OAS 3.0 spec. Remember to use async. Other stuff here, how it works. There's lots of stuff here. Oh, your query parameters, path. I think a lot of this documentation might actually be new. A complete example. Right, this is what I was trying to get to, or what I was trying to allude to at the very start. They've actually hard-coded in the JSON here. So they've not actually read it from a live URL. They've just hard-coded in the kind of some, it's not fake, but yeah, synthetic data. So what I've shown you is actually using the live site, live sandbox, whereas what is obviously for didactic purposes, they've just shown you the hard-coded JSON version. So anyway, go fastmcp.com. And then there's other stuff about FastAPI. Again, you can write your own API, which would be in FastAPI, and then you could use FastMCP over the top of that. And that's what they're showing here, like FastMCP and FastAPI. I know you've got FastAPI, FastMCP, OpenAPI, OpenAI. There's lots of things that all sound very similar nowadays, don't they? But there we go. That's the end of this video. If you like it, thumbs up. This took a lot of work, a lot of effort. I don't get much for this. And also, if you want just to promote this channel so that you give it me a thumbs up and I'll pop up more in the Google search algorithm. Yeah, it's a bit competitive out there. And I refuse to just do this kind of the clickbait stuff with, you know, yeah, lots of fancy graphics and lots of annoying drum and bass music and lots of pot plants and lots of Apple laptops everywhere and a glowing lava lamp in the background. And anyway, that's just me being grumpy. So I don't know. I think there's always room for like somebody who's grumpy, maybe even someone who's English. I don't know. Us Brits are quite thin on the ground, I think, on YouTube now. I don't know why, but yeah. I don't want to depress you because yeah, I'm trying to inspire you. So yeah, FastMCP. Thanks for watching. Thumbs up, subscribe, like, comment, all that stuff. So yeah, cheers.